Welcome Leo, Sun, Moon, and Rising to your February 2026 astrology forecast. Today is February 5th, so I am a little bit late getting these out to you. I apologize for that. I am working on getting these done in a more timely manner. However, each video does take about 2 to 3 hours to do with recording and editing and posting and all that stuff. And while I'm not making any money at doing this, I only have so much time to dedicate to it before I have to work for the job that makes me money. Anyway, February is a big month. January was a huge month as well. February is an even bigger month. There are bigger shifts going on that you may or may not feel right away, but they are shifts that are so massive that they are changing the trajectory of not only your individual life, but also the life of the collective. We're making shifts that will affect thousands of years to come. The astrology of this month is that big. So the two big things I'm talking about are that we are starting eclipse season this month. So there will be a solar eclipse. And then the other big thing is, the major thing is that Saturn is entering Aries and making a conjunction with Neptune at 0 degrees of Aries. And this is what the very big deal is. The last time, now Saturn and Neptune do make conjunctions about every 35 years. The last time they made one in Aries was in the early 1700s. So in that case, it's rare, but it has never in recorded history, at least up to the astrology software that I use, that goes up to 500 BC. But I've also heard other astrologers say that it hasn't happened at least in 5,000 or 6,000 years. I don't know what they're using to go back that far, but this has not happened at the 0 degree point, which is the birthing point of the entire zodiac wheel. So this is literally birthing something new. So when Saturn and Neptune have met up in Aries before, it's kind of like astrology is repeating patterns, right? So it's like you can kind of see the echoes of things that have happened before. Sure, each situation is different, but there's repeating patterns in the energy. Well, this has never happened at the 0 degree point, the world point, the creation point, before, or at least not in about 6,000 years or more. So it is really big. We're going to be getting into that and getting into the solar eclipse, as well as all the other important aspects that all your personal planets are making. Like, the astrology is huge this month. So before we get into it, hi, I'm Sarah at Life with Training Wheels. If you're new here, thank you so much for joining. If you're returning, thank you so much for returning. It really does mean the world to me. And I use Western Tropical Zodiac Astrology, whole sign house system, along with tarot and other spiritual health and wellness tools, such as, you can't see it behind me, but like singing bowls, I don't know which way to move, tuning forks, things like that, to help balance your system, help you on a path of self-discovery and learning to embrace the power that you have within, the power that you have to create and manifest the life that you desire and the life that you're meant to be living, and to identify and release any self-sabotaging behavior, self-limiting beliefs, victim mentality, so that you can live your life to its fullest and to your highest and best potential. So if that sounds like something that you want to stick around for, a vibe you can vibe with, then please go ahead and stick around and engage with this video in any way that you can. Give me a like, a comment, a subscribe, a share, anything, so that I keep showing up in your feed. Now, without further ado, let's pull up your chart. One more thing before we fully get started, I do recommend listening to these for your rising sign first, as your rising sign is what sets up your whole natal chart, where your houses fall, what signs fall in what houses, etc. Then listen, so it will show and indicate where things are actually most likely to manifest in your physical world, in your day-to-day life. And then listen for your sun sign. This is more how you are outward facing, more embodiment of who you are and who you're trying to be in this lifetime, and more career oriented. And then listen to your moon sign for more how you may be feeling the energy emotionally or at home. And then it's best to listen to all three if you can, if you have time for it, and then kind of holistically piece it all together to get a bigger energetic picture of what is going on for you and what is coming up for you. So even though it's February 5th, we are going to go ahead and start all the way at the beginning of the month, because the month did start out with a bang. We started out with a full moon here in your house, first house of self-identity, your body, how you present to the world, making an opposition over here to the sun and all of the personal planets plus Pluto in your 7th house of relationships. I will link up here up in that corner to the full moon collective video I did. I think it's worth a watch, just because full moons, anytime there's oppositions, it's asking us to balance, and full moons are really highlighting an area of our life that we need to make sure that we're not letting go of. It highlights things. Full moons are usually a time when things are starting to manifest. The seeds that we planted are beginning to show harvest and growth and things like that. And so the full moon gives us an opportunity to see the things where weeds might be growing that might be holding us back from obtaining the best harvest that we can from the seeds that we've planted. So it's kind of a time of weeding as well, of giving thanks to what is showing up and weeding out things that don't. So this is calling attention to your house of self, making sure that you're not forgetting about yourself with all this energy that's going on in your house of relationships. So you might feel that you are, you might feel strongly connected to your relationships, or feel like a lot of transformation going on with how you show up in your relationships, how you value your relationships, what your communication is in your relationships. You might just be feeling a lot what your desires are in your relationships. So you might be with the sun representing you, how you are in your relationships, like what you bring to the table. So there could be just a lot of focus for you within your romantic partnerships or business partnerships or anything like that. And so this is just a reminder to not forget about yourself. And especially being a Leo rising, Leos are all about the heart, all about generosity, all about joy, all about play, things like that. So making sure that you're bringing that energy and courage and leadership and stuff like that, but really this childlike energy, this joyful energy. So making sure that you are bringing that to your relationship and not forgetting to have that for yourself as well. All right, so then we fast forward to February 3rd, and this day we have Uranus stationing direct, or had Uranus stationing direct. This was 2 days ago. So you may have felt an energetic shift with this. You may have felt a shift since Uranus rules your 7th house of relationships, you may have noticed a shift there. Or just, Uranus rules the electricity, it rules technology, it rules our nervous systems as well. So you could have noticed kind of like a Mercury retrograde, you could have noticed some shifts in technology or something like that. You could have had some sudden insights, some sudden information come in, or With this being in the sign of Taurus, this could have been sudden happening, sudden shifts, sudden things as far as finances and resources and your overall value system. With this ruling your 10th house of career, there could have been a sudden opportunity, something sudden showing up, something sudden leaving, some type of new information coming in regarding your career. So that is potentially very exciting. And all month, this which we'll get into in just a second, this Uranus in Taurus, besides stationing direct, it is going to be getting a lot of activity from all the personal planets, which we'll get into in just a second. So now we are going to be talking about the stellium of personal planets in Aquarius in your 7th house. So, if you watched last month, we talked about the stellium of personal planets going through your 6th house, your house of daily habits, health, routines, things like that, in the sign of Capricorn, a sign of building, structure, foundation. So you were having a lot of energy focus there, and when they were there, they were each taking turns having a conjunction with the sun. So all of your personal planets made a conjunction with the sun, birthing new seeds, right? It's starting a new cycle. And so that was really big. Also, just having the stellium, these planets go through each sign at different intervals, right? So the sun, Venus, and Mercury, they stay on a sign about 3 to 5 weeks. Mars, on the other hand, takes about 2 months to go through each sign. So the fact that they are in a stellium, especially for so long, they've been in a stellium basically since the beginning of the year. So that is really significant to have all this energy so concentrated of all your personal planets, which represents your, basically all of your daily life, your daily existence, like everything. So you had a new birth in your daily habits, routines, seeds were planted in a sign of Capricorn, so it's going to stick. And then as they moved into Aquarius at the end of last month, they all met up with Pluto, where they had a chance to go through some more transformation. These new seeds were planted, and then they started going through this transformation where Pluto helped excavate anything in your communication, your values, finances, relationships, desires, passions, all of those things, ego, that needed to be let go of, and hopefully brought some things to your attention so that the ground is nice and fertile for these new seeds that were planted to be able to grow. So then as they continue moving through Aquarius and into Pisces this month, they're going to be making some dynamic conversations. So not only is the energy heavily focused over here in your relationships, hopefully improving your relationships or shining a light on anything that needs to be shown a light on in your relationships, changing your communication, your values, your ego, how you show up, your desires, things like that with regards to your relationships are really, on point right now. But as these planets start to move, they make a lot of conversation. So the first of which is they are each at different times this month. It started on the 2nd with Mercury making sextiles to Chiron here in Aries. And Chiron in Aries, if you remember, Aries is the I am energy. And Chiron is a wounded healer. So this is where you may have wounds of where you've kept yourself small for the sake of others. This could be in your 9th house, wounds that you have in regards to religion or belief systems or long distance travel or higher education or teaching, things like that. Anything in those areas of life where you may have felt like you couldn't show up fully. Any type of trauma or anything like that in those areas, you're going to be getting a sextile here from your house of relationships and partnerships. So as each of these make conversations with Chiron, they're kind of bringing a different message, right? Like Mercury is the planet of communication and thought processes and things like that. So maybe you'll be getting healing opportunities of looking at things differently. Venus is finances and value system and relationships. So maybe, getting some opportunities with one of those things to do some healing. Sun, the ego and just overall shining a light on anything that needs to be healed, but providing a nice feeling healing to it. With Mars, maybe your passions, your desires, your willpower, motivation to do healing work, things like that. So then the next conversation that all these personal planets are going to take turns having is a square here to Uranus. So as we talked about, Uranus, is the planet of your nervous system, sudden insight, sudden intuition, sudden clarity. It is the planet of rebellion and reimagining things, thinking outside the box, revolution. And it's in your 10th house of career. It is in Taurus, which is a fixed sign, which, overall kind of represents finances and values and just the earth energy as well. So these squares from your 7th house to your 10th house with the planet of doing things differently, of sudden insight, sudden information, sudden changes. Things might be shaking up a little bit for their final time, because that's the other thing to mention about Uranus stationing direct is once it moves a little later this year, this spring, into Gemini, it's not going to be back into Taurus, and it's been in Taurus with you since 2018. So you've probably felt some shakeups, had some instability, I guess you could say, good or bad, in your house of career since about 2018. Well, once this moves out of your career house should be a bit more stable. But all these planets here are making conversations here with Uranus in your 10th house with a square. And the 7th house is either romantic relationships, best friendships, as well as business partnerships. So there could be some things showing up here, considering it's making a square to Uranus in your 10th house, regarding business partnerships and things like that. So again, each has a different flavor. With Mercury coming in to make the square, that could be conversations, information, communication, ideas, things like that coming to shake things up in between a potential business partner or a romantic relationship and your 10th house of career. And this is happening on February 5th. And then Venus will be next on February 8th, and it might be bringing or causing some, financial, Venus's money and finances and resources and values and relationships. So there's a square here, potentially shaking things up or bringing something new. And then the Sun will be making the square to Uranus on February 15th. So this is kind of maybe like an ego check of some sort, or something in regards to like you, because the Sun represents you. So you may be causing some type of tension either in your relationships or with your 10th house, something along those lines. And then Mars will make this square at the end of the month on February 27th. So that will be like a conflict between your willpower, your desires, your motivation, things like that. And squares are tension points. They're usually they're usually things where a decision needs to be made. So they're, and that decisions don't always have to be bad, right? Like it can be you being presented with opportunities and you have to choose whether to take the opportunity or decline it. Like that can be that type of energy, but it usually requires some type of decision or action to be made. So there are lots of opportunities for additional shakeups in your 10th house of career before Uranus moves out of your career house later this year. Okay, so next we're going to talk about February 13th and February 20th together. So February 13th is when Saturn moves into the sign of Aries. So it has been in Pisces in your 8th house of shared resources, finances, intimacy, transformation since for the last 2.5 years, teaching some lessons, boundaries, things like that, causing some hard work in this area of your life. It is now moving into the 9th house on February 13th and makes an immediate conjunction with Uranus at 0 degrees. They've been in conjunction, but now with Saturn moving in to the same sign, now it is a same sign conjunction between them again. And the big astrology of the month that I talked about at the beginning is on February 20th is the date that they are going to be making an exact conjunction. So the degrees and the minutes will be exact on February 20th. So first, just looking at Saturn entering Aries in and of itself, there should be some pressure relieved and some clarity with both Saturn and Neptune leaving your 8th house. There should be some pressure leaving and clarity returning to your 8th house themes of shared resources, intimacy, transformation, like shadow work, things like that. There should be some clarity showing up here, as well as just kind of feeling a weight relieved. And then with Saturn moving into Aries, this is where that energy will be for the next 2.5 years. I'll be doing a separate video on that and what that brings, because Saturn wants boundaries and structures and is wherever it's transiting, you kind of have to work a little bit harder. It's there teaching you some lessons. So this is in your house of belief systems and long distance travel and higher education, teaching, things like that. But it's also a big deal because this is the point, like I said, that is changing humanity as a whole. And we may or may not feel it, as a potent energy this month or anything. It might be because both these planets are very slow moving. It's kind of in the background, but it is signifying a major energetic shift, a major birthing of these two energies, right? When there's a conjunction, it's a new seeding point for these combined energies. It's a birthing of something. And anytime Neptune enters Aries, it is signifies a new spiritual revolution and things like that. Brings, with Aries being the I am, it usually starts off with being a connection to source, God, spirit, whatever. Yourself, not relying on, outer institutions for our belief systems and having to go through anybody but the divine spark within us. It's that type of movement. And then with Saturn, Saturn brings stability, right? So and that hasn't happened at the 0 degree point. So it's like we're turning a page on a spiritual revolution, real, and taking our power back too, right? Like Neptune, you know, besides being that sovereignty and being this energy of dreaming the best dream possible into existence, Saturn is here to ground that in. So that can be, you know, grounding in this energy of a spiritual revolution, of just talking with, you know, having a direct relationship with spirit and really grounding in that energy, and that's going to stay. It's not going to revert back to having to go through churches and stuff like that. But it also is giving us the opportunity to, because Neptune is compassion and love and the universal connection between us all. So it's really giving us the opportunity to dream what we want our world to look like, to dream the best vision possible with compassion and connection and everything for all people, right? With that love, realizing we're all part of the same thing, and really ground, with Saturn being able to ground that in. So that's kind of the collective energy. But how I'm reading this for individuals is that this energy, even if it's not involved in your work or your career or anything like that, wherever this energy is falling for you is kind of where you're meant to be the leader, right? Aries is the leader, the initiator, the spark of getting things going. This is where you are meant to shine and be a leading role with how we take the dream into reality, how we continue to dismantle the old structure that is crumbling right in front of our eyes, that is no longer serving anyone well, and build the new at the same time. And so your mission for this, and where you might show up consciously or not, maybe the way I'm seeing it is in your 9th house of belief systems. So being, you know, and embodying, you know, maybe showing how to embody that self-connection, right? Or belief systems, some like helping people work through the paradigm shift that's going on in their belief systems, helping them see that. This could be, you know, or you doing some higher education and having the paradigm shifting yourself, right? Like diving into religious studies, diving into, or any other higher education, like really wrapping your head around some higher learning. And that can be regards to religion or anything else, anything. It's belief systems overall, and higher education overall. So there may be more opportunities for you to learn some new things that might be a little paradigm shifting for you. Or this also represents teacher energy. So you could have a lot of opportunities. You could be a teacher of something. That could be a new role that you show up in. Or you could be, this is also foreign people, foreign cultures, foreign travel. So there could be opportunities to work with groups of people that are different from you, or travel to foreign lands, or, you know, I don't always think of, like, 3rd house is also travel, but that's more like your immediate community. So a lot of times, you know, 9th house, people call it foreign travel, or long distance travel. But I think, especially with how big the United States is, that can even be travel across the United States, right? So there could be opportunities coming up for that you're being called to do as well. And that'll be kind of where you're showing up to help this new world be born. So then right in between this energy, on February 17th, we have a new moon solar eclipse at 28 degrees of Aquarius. This is in your 7th house at the, you know, it's not the anaretic degree, it's not the final degree of Aquarius, but it is darn close. It's only minutes away. So we could round up and say that this is at the 29th degree of Aquarius. So kind of this, although the new moon is bringing new beginnings, it's kind of at the end too. So it's like there is a little bit of energy of like letting things go, or like a finality of what you've been learning and going and growing through, how you've matured, right? The 29th degree is a degree of maturation. So it's like you've matured so much in this house of relationship that now there's room for exciting new beginnings to show up. So not only does the new moon represent new beginnings, but also with it being a solar eclipse. So eclipses happen when the new or full moons are within a conjunction of about 16 degrees to the north or south node. Well, this is in a conjunction to the north node. The north node also brings new things. South node is more about letting things go, releasing, or old things showing back up. The north node is like new things showing up that you're not expecting, that haven't necessarily been in your awareness. Like maybe you're expecting something new to happen, but maybe it's like way down the road or something like that, or it could just be something totally out of left field. But with it being the north node, it's like fated, right? They always talk about the nodes being the nodes of fate. So whatever is showing up, whatever new thing is showing up, you've matured so much, you're now ready for this new thing to show up in your house of relationships. So that's very exciting. And to me, what's exciting about this eclipse is the fact that it's happening in between the 13th when Saturn enters Aries and the 20th when Saturn and Neptune are conjunct. So it really is like we have this beautiful, like I feel like there's going to be staying power to this, right? There's going to be and whatever shifts have been going on here, right? There's going to be staying power to it because Uranus still rules this, and we're going through, these last final shakeups here with Uranus. So like whatever this solar eclipse is bringing you really has a lot of staying power. Now again, how much of an impact this solar eclipse is going to have for you really depends on your natal chart. If you have planets or points in the later degrees of Aquarius or your early degrees of Pisces, you will feel this the most. The other degrees are the other fixed signs. So like later Scorpio, Taurus, or Leo will be feeling this the most, right? And so that's the other thing. This, Uranus rules this. Uranus and Saturn both rule Aquarius. So there is so much staying power, and I'll be doing a separate video, but there's so much staying power to whatever is showing up for you. And you'll probably feel, even if you don't have any planets or points, you'll probably feel this energy a little bit more than the subtle, more long-term energy of Saturn and Uranus. But whatever's showing up, just roll with the flow. If nothing is showing up, then you don't have any planets or points, and this, may not, a different eclipse might hit you a little bit harder, that it doesn't hit other people. So, but regardless, it will be, the energy will be going on in the background, so there likely will be something showing up for you. It just may not be as life-changing or as big of a deal to you right at this time. The other thing to note, which is really interesting, is this solar eclipse lasts for about 2 minutes, and they say that however many minutes the energy lasts is kind of the length of time that the new beginnings from this solar eclipse have the opportunity to show up as this point gets, this 29th degree, 28th, 29th degree gets activated over the next 2 years. It's interesting to note that Saturn's travel rate is also 2 years. So there could be this heavy connection between the 7th house of relationships and this 9th house. So that's just fascinating as well. And how it interacts with your 10th house as well. So there's a lot going on here. And your 8th house with the North Node being in the 8th house. So there's a lot going on in that quadrant of your life. I just realized I forgot to mention a couple important conversations that the personal planets are having as they move into Pisces. First thing, they are each taking turns making a conjunction to the North Node in Pisces, which again brings fated new beginnings, fated new things. So you could have a lot more things showing up in your 8th house of shared resources, finances, things like that are pointing you on the right path. North Node in Pisces is a very spiritual energy, one of, and it's where we can kind of lack boundaries, but it's where we are connected to the other realms and things like that. And with the North Node being in Pisces overall, collectively, I feel the energy is asking us to learn to let go and let God and trust. And so you're being asked to do those things in your 8th house. So with regard to shared resources, so that's taxes, investments, your partner's resources, like just trust. And whatever it is that's going on there, whatever moves you're making, just learn to trust, not having to know all the details, just going with what feels right, what you're being called to do, trusting your intuition in this area, as well as deepening intimacy both with yourself and with others, being willing to do the shadow work, do the transformation work that you need to do in this area of vulnerability, right? 8th house is largely with transformation and with intimacy. You have to learn to be vulnerable, not only with yourself, but with other people. So that's a lot that's going on there too. And then the next interaction these planets are going to be making while they're in Pisces is to Jupiter over here in Cancer in your 12th house. And Jupiter is a co-ruler of Pisces. The other ruler is Neptune. And so this is really beautiful energy, the trine. This is very deep inner work that's going on with this trine, though, because the 12th house is the house of like our subconscious. It is also the house, like Pisces is the traditional ruler, I guess, of the 12th house. There's a lot of similarities between the 12th house energy and Pisces energy, because 12th house is like literally the house of our dream time. It is the house of spirituality, of where we can connect with the other realms, connect with the divine. And it is also the house of like where things are kind of hidden from society. So it does rule things like prisons and hospitals and recovery centers and spiritual retreat centers and things like that. All those things that are kind of hidden from society, where you are not participating in society while you're there, those types of things. But it also represents, like I said, our subconscious. So where we might have some patterning that self-sabotaging behavior that we're not aware of, victim mentality that we're not aware of, that type of things. And when there's a trine over here, those things might be able, especially like when Mercury trines or whatever, we might be able to see where we might have some of these self-sabotaging behaviors and notice them and get rid of them if they aren't serving us. As well as, perhaps Jupiter retrograde can bring back opportunities that maybe we didn't take advantage of the first time around. 12th house can also be addiction. So with there being this, with the house of transformation and the house of like addiction, with there being a trine here, maybe you're finally able to let go of some addictions. Maybe it's something with Jupiter retrograde. Maybe it's something that you tried before that wasn't able to stick, and now you have no problem sticking with it. Things like that, or opportunities with the second or with the 8th house. Maybe there's an opportunity for a counselor or something like that. Like, this is deep psychological work going on between these two houses to realize patterns that aren't serving you and to let go of them, or just opportunities to grow deeper and better and have transformation, but have it be an easy process, not have it be a struggle, right? It's not a square, it's a trine here going on. So whatever's coming up is like, oh, okay, like I see that, I recognize it, I can let go of it. Or perhaps there's, an opportunity for something spiritual going on here. So then there's only a couple other things to talk about. So we have, on February 25th, Mercury will be turning retrograde in your 8th house. So this is a good time to, Mercury retrograde things will probably show up, like miscommunication, technological problems, short distance travel, or just like plans not kind of going right. But in your 8th house, these things could show up specifically there. But this also gives you a chance to revise, rethink things in your 12th house or in your 8th house before you continue to move forward with them. So perhaps you were thinking of making an investment, or you did make an investment, and now you're getting a chance to really review if that was the right decision or not, or getting a chance to go back and have more conversations, heal some things in regards to intimate relationships, or your own personal transformation, getting a chance to review things before continuing to move forward. So that is really a good thing, I think. And then the final thing is on February 27th, Mercury retrograde and Venus are going to be conjunct. So this will be, again, another opportunity to review your finances and your relationships and your overall value system with this Venus conjunction, and kind of setting a new seed for moving forward in this area. So that is it for your February forecast. If you have appreciated this video, please give me a like, a comment, subscribe. Tell me what you liked, tell me what you didn't. But any way you can interact will help this tiny channel grow, and I greatly appreciate it. As well as keep your eyes out. I do post shorts. I try to get to them every day for the daily energy. I don't do it by sign, but just to kind of give you a heads up of what the daily energy is, and then you can come back to this video and see how it might be playing out in your own personal chart as well. But other than that, give me a like, comment, subscribe if you can, if you would be so kind. Otherwise, I hope you have a great February, and I look forward to seeing you back here in my next video.